Hey guys, how are you? Today I'll be doing a review of Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. The first half will be spoiler free and the second half will include spoilers. So, Dark Places follows Libby Day, who at this stage, from at the point the book takes place, is 22. Now, the back of the book says that when Libby was about 7, her entire family was murdered other than herself and her brother. Her brother is now in jail for the murders, and Libby has grown up pretty poor with her aunt, etc., and is now 22 where the book starts. So at the beginning of the book, Libby is approached by a group of people who believe that her brother is innocent. Now, Libby was the one who essentially put her brother behind bars because she was the only one in the house that survived other than her brother. And her testament basically put him in jail. Also important to consider is the fact that when the bodies were found, there were satanic symbols written all over the walls in blood. Okay, so I gave this book 3.5 stars, which I know is somewhat unpopular, but that's just how I felt. I had a lot of high expectations going into this book because I'd heard it was better than Gone Girl, and I loved Gone Girl. And I was a bit disappointed. I think that was more a reflection on myself and my views going into it rather than the book. Okay, let's start with characters. So Libby is really poor, and she basically decides to listen to this group of people who believe her brother is innocent because they're willing to pay her to talk to people that they're not able to talk to, like her father, her brother in jail, other people, etc. And so she starts investigating herself, and so we learn through her eyes what the real story is. Now, I liked Libby as a character, but I found her at times a bit dull. I think that she could have been a bit more rounded. I found there was a lot to do with, her financial situation and very little to do with anything else. There was nothing really about her childhood other than the murders and stuff like that. I just found her very sort of underwhelming. We also hear from Ben, the brother, his point of view throughout the book, as well as Patty Day, who is the mother, who obviously died in the murders, but we get both of Ben and Patty's perspectives from the day of the murders. So through that, I found that really interesting and really effective. I really liked the way that we got to see Libby's point of view 15 years later, as well as Ben and Patty's the day of the murders. I found the writing was really good, but I also really struggle with Gillian Flynn's writing. I think that while she's a good writer, I like psychological thrillers that flow really, really well. Things like Girl on the Train, etc. They're just so easy to read, and I find Gillian Flynn's writing is very sort of cumbersome, and it's fantastic, but it just takes a lot more out of you to read, and in some ways I don't like that. But I do think it works. I would just prefer her writing to be a little simpler because I feel like that's more effective in building up suspense. That was another issue I had with this book. So the suspense in this book was pretty underwhelming again. I found that I was really wanting to know what happened with the satanic stuff, and throughout the book you learn a bit about characters, especially through Ben's point of view when he's younger, about how this satanic stuff came to be. And again, I found that somewhat underwhelming. I really just didn't love how that tied in at the end. I found that, the writing was good, the characters were good, the plot was okay up to a point, and then it sort of was a bit of a letdown. And that's pretty much all I can give you for the spoiler-free part. So if you haven't read this book, please turn off this video, go watch something else, and come back later when you've read the book. Okay, so now for the spoilers. I found the end, let's just start right at the end. I found the end really dull. So I was really excited about this satanic stuff. I was like, oh yeah, cult, satanic, that's really cool. I wanted to know. And then to find out that Deandra, the girlfriend, just did it as a cover-up, I found really stupid. I found the fact that Deandra covered up the murders by putting the satanic symbols all over the house really dumb. One, it was a really boring way to end it. Gillian Flynn could have done so many things with the satanic worship stuff. And two, her friend, brother, whoever, Trey, is known for satanic stuff. So I find it really stupid that she would do that, because that would just make it sort of link back to her eventually, and I find it stupid the police didn't do that. Also, I found that the situation with Chrissy Cates and the whole pedophilia type stuff, I liked that idea, but it went nowhere. Like, the Chrissy Cates stuff and his, like, the allegations against Ben literally had zero purpose in the book other than to make it slightly more interesting. And I feel like when you've got something that big, like, it's such a big part of the book, it needs to have something to do with the ending. And it didn't. It literally had nothing. And I just, again, I was like, well, if you're gonna put this in, you need to do something with it. I really did like the stuff with Deandra and her daughter. I can't remember her daughter's name. Crystal? Yeah, Crystal. I really like the stuff with Deandra and Crystal, the daughter, that, I found that really, really cool, actually, that, the daughter was in on it, and that they were just waiting for Libby to turn up. I also like the fact that Ben was protecting Deandra and Crystal, like, that he felt so guilty for what happened that night, that he was willing to take the price for it and protect his girlfriend and his daughter. And I found that was really a good part of the book that I think should have had a bigger impact at the end. Like, I think that you sort of found out what happened and the book just ended. And I feel like it would have been a bit nice if there was an extra chapter where Libby and Ben sort of had a chat together about why Ben decided to go into jail and take the price for it, because that's never really resolved. You sort of see Ben talking about it, but that's still halfway through the book when we're not 100% sure of what happens. And I really would have liked to sort of revisit that idea at the end of the book and have a sort of confirmation as to why Ben covered up, and to have Libby understand that. I felt that once you found out what happened with the murders, the book just ended, and I really didn't think that that was appropriate, because there were so many things that happened with, you know, between Ben and Libby, and there was nothing about Ben after you found out what happened, and I just didn't find that appropriate. Like, does he get out of jail? Is there more investigation as to what happened with Michelle's death? Because obviously this person who did the murders, I cannot remember his name, but this guy who goes around sort of helping with assisted suicide, I found that he was, you know, we got his point of view at the end, but we didn't get Ben's, and I found that was sort of not right. When the book is about Ben, it should finish with Ben. I also found that the end with the assisted suicide thing was a cop-out. I did see it coming. I saw that I saw what the mum was doing, and I really was just like, oh, really? I found it interesting, sort of, that he decided to kill everyone because they saw what was happening, but at the same time, that totally defeats the purpose of what was happening. And I just, you know, it was a bit of a cop-out. I wanted it to be some crazy satanic thing, and I was like, oh wait, it was a coincidence. Cool. And, you know, like, I enjoyed reading the book, but I really did feel let down by the end and almost lied to. Like, I feel like I'd been building up to all this stuff, and then that's what happened at the end. I also didn't feel like this was a psychological thriller. I thought it was just a murder mystery, to be completely honest. There was very little psychological stuff in here. There was no twist where it was like, oh my gosh, this happened. Like, I was sort of expecting, this is a bit extreme, but I was expecting a big thing like Libby did the murders and wasn't aware of what she was doing, and Ben covered up for her. Like, that would have been cool. It's unrealistic because she was like 5, but, you know, that's a psychological thriller when, like, someone doesn't know what they've done, or there's a really twisted reason behind it. And there was no twisted reason behind any of this stuff. It was literally, like, coincidence and stupidity. And I just found, I struggled with that too, because I really did feel like I'd been lied to about the type of book I was reading. I did enjoy the book overall, but again, I really would have appreciated a different ending and perhaps a different writing style, or just a more rounded ending too. I sort of also really shipped Libby and Lyle toward the end. I know that wasn't really a thing, but toward the end, when he was sort of looking after her and he came to get her after she was attacked at Crystal and Deandra's and stuff, I was like, oh, I want them to get together, and nothing happened, which I'm fine with. You know, there doesn't have to be romance in every single book, but I think it just would have been nice to have something. Like I said, the book is a very sort of like, this is the end type thing, and there's very little sort of hinting at what happens afterward. You know, we don't find out about what happens to Ben. We don't find out what happens with Libby and Lyle, and stuff like that. And we also don't find out what happens to Runner. It hints at the fact that he has a couple of months left to live, but we don't actually hear anything about him. You know, like, I don't, you know, he wasn't the best of characters, and so it wasn't necessary at the end, but I feel like she sort of went to see him, and that was it. And again, I just feel like the ending was not well-rounded at all, and it didn't sort of match up with the rest of the story. This was a 3.5 star read for me. I did enjoy it, but I do feel like the ending should have been stronger, and that the writing perhaps needed a bit more editing and reviewing, and that some loose ends did need to be tied up. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you've got any views on this book, please let me know down below. If you've got any questions, go ahead. And if you like this video, please subscribe and like it. Thank you very much. Also, I apologize if my voice was weird in this video. I do have a cold. And also, I am getting a proper camera soon, so hopefully the quality of my videos and my footage will be good in the coming months. Thanks for watching. See you later.